Greetings, growers worldwide. Jordan River back with more Growcast, the nutrients for your ears. Today we have Dr. Greenskye of Red Scare Seed Co. We've done a breeder feature with him before, but it was so long ago. It's crazy how time flies. You guys are going to love this episode. We get all caught up on everything that he's been up to, all the legal troubles that he's been going through, maybe a landmark case when it comes to us cannabis growers, and lots of breeding talk. I know you're going to love it. Before we jump in with Dr. Greenskye, though, Medic Grow, baby. medicgrow.com. You need a medic. You definitely want to grab yourself the Easy 8. This is a really, really cool fixture, you guys. It's very, very affordable, and it is very efficient. It's very powerful. It's ranking up there with, I believe, a 2.6 U-moles per joule efficiency rating, so right around those high-end bar fixtures. It's very, very, very powerful with a high PPFD, and maybe best of all, it has an onboard interface. You can select all sorts of settings from the sunrise and sunset feature to the timer itself right there on the onboard screen. It's got an onboard dimmer. It's got everything you need. It's a really smart light. It's called the Smart 8. Go and check it out. Use code GROWCAST for 10% off, I believe, your Medic Grow lighting. Code GROWCAST at medicgrow.com. We're loving these. It's how Seed Co. is powered, baby. The whole Peach Quake drop. This Seed Co. is powered by Medic Grow. And you can use code GROWCAST at medicgrow.com. And you won't regret it. Like I said, that Smart 8 is really cool. They also got the Easy Folds, lots of different options, but go check out the Smart. You won't regret it. Okay, let's get into it with Dr. Greenskye, everybody. Thank you for listening, and enjoy the program. Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to Growcast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in today. Before we get started, I urge you to share the show, tell a grower about Growcast, and get someone growing. Tell a smoker to pop a seed, get them listening to Growcast. That is our new mission, everybody. It's always been our mission, but we're clearer than ever. That's what we're doing this year. Also, check out the Order of Cultivation at growcastpodcast.com/membership. Our little secret society of growers. Don't tell anybody about it, though. Today, we are in Breeder Feature February, and we have a return guest who I've been dying to speak to for some time. People have been requesting for a long time to get him back. We have the one and only Dr. Greenskye from Red Scare Seed Co. on the line. What's up, Dr. Greenskye? How are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me back, buddy.
It's been too long.
It has.
It truly has. And there's a reason for that. You've been fucking nuts deep in a horrible litigation, something that we've not been able to discuss. I don't want to step on anything right out of the gate, so I'll just cue you up. Can you please talk to us about, it's been probably been about 2 years since you've been on the show, or a year and a half since you've been on the show. What's been going on in that time?
Yeah, so we were living in Michigan, and we had a small hemp farm in Kentucky. We were transitioning our move from Michigan to Illinois, where we were going to, start a little hemp farm, small family farm. Well, we were in the process of getting our extractor's license for the state of Illinois, so that we could process our own hemp and not have to send it off to an extractor.
Uh-huh.
So, a crazy story, man. We were driving down from Michigan to work with the plants in Kentucky. And finally, we get ready for the move down to, the permanent move. We harvest everything. We get it, everything's hanging in the barn. It's good to go. Forgive me for being a little scattered here. It just brings back a flood of memories.
No, not at all. No, we're with you. And I imagine that having gone so far down the road, backing your brain up to the beginning is probably a little bit challenging. But this is the first time that a lot of listeners are hearing about this. Again, Kentucky and Illinois bordering right up against each other down there on the south end of Illinois. Paducah is right across that state line. So you've got your harvest hanging up down there.
Yeah, so we've got the harvest hanging. We had everything tested by the Department of Ag, everything tested, under the limit. And we did have one strain of concern, and we burned that on site.
Okay. Following all the letter of the law, dotting your T's and crossing your I's, as they say.
Oh yeah, double checking everything, making sure we were good to go, because we're, coming from my background, which is largely black market cannabis. The transition from black market to being legal was tricky to navigate. So we finally we go to collect our harvest, and we see that it's been taken. And the Fish and Wildlife, Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, was spray painted DNR on the barn.
DNR? Do not resuscitate?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, right?
What?
Yeah. So we get to the bottom of it and find out that a guy was hunting, stumbled across the barn. He calls the state police, the Kentucky State Police.
Boo.
Yeah. The Kentucky State Police then show up. And so instead of checking with the Department of Agriculture to see if this was a drying facility for hemp, they took and unloaded everything out of the barn, drove it off site without weighing any of it, and burned the entire crop.
Wow. And oh shit, I know you're like in litigation, so I don't even know if you could answer this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious to know if that happened in Chicago. Like, I'd be shocked if they didn't take the weed with the intent to keep it, to smoke it, to keep it, sell it, whatever the fuck they do.
Right.
They really went and burned it. It sounded like that's not what was happening here, as far as you know. They really took it. They really burned it, even though it was fucking legal.
Yeah, even though it was legal, they took it and burned every bit of it.
Wow.
Which we saw as, just a full frontal assault on the small farmer in America. We see this every day,
That's
in some form or fashion. And so the decision was made, do we hire an attorney and try to see if we can get, some precedents set so that in the future these raids are conducted differently, so that the state police has to check with the Department of Agriculture for the coordinates, because a simple phone call would have cleared everything up. We would have had our crop.
5 minutes.
Yeah. And, 2 years of litigation is nothing for the state police. They've got attorneys on hand. That's what they do.
Yeah, they're on retainer. They're already fucking paid.
Exactly. It doesn't affect their daily life.
Yeah.
And so for us, we've had to really throw everything we had into it. My Instagram page has almost by default become an auction page where we just raise funds for the legal battle, because it's gotten to the point where we're so far in that we can't back out.
Holy fuck.
Of the fight. And so we're just trying to take it full term. And so, like I mentioned in previous conversation with you, March 30th is our final hearing. And so that's going to be a really nerve-wracking day. We're going to have to drive in. Yeah, we have to make the drive in to Frankfurt too. And so that's not convenient for a farmer to just let me drop everything for 2 days and then go drive to Frankfort, Kentucky for a hearing about some hemp they burned 2 years ago.
Jesus.
I'm not getting compensated for that. I can't even take 2 days off to go hiking, let alone sit in a courtroom and deal with litigation that's been ongoing for 2 years. It's beyond frustrating.
Jesus, dude. You're doing God's work here, setting these precedents, as you said. Absolutely incredible.
Without the support of the community, we would have backed out a year ago. We were at a breaking point. I made a short post about it, and I wasn't sure if I was even supposed to at the time. It turns out I could have kept it up. Just a small post explaining the story and what happened, with our crop. And I immediately started getting just a flooding of support from the community. People offering up packs from their personal vault and their personal collection. And it's overwhelming to get that kind of support and help from people that you don't even know.
I love that, man.
And so that's beyond humbling, and that's something. I can be critical of the cannabis community as a whole, but I can also sit back from afar and say that, wow, the community has done a lot. We have come a long way, but we can't sit idle and say, okay, well, Illinois has, we're legal in Illinois now. We can grow 5 plants. That's cool. We can't sit back and be okay with that.
Totally.
Because the small farmer can't survive on 5 plants. And you take away a whole entrepreneurial aspect of the cannabis plant when you decide who and who can't play with it. And so when you allow states like Illinois to dictate how many plants you're allowed to grow, it's like you're kind of letting them dictate your future and dictate,
absolutely,
your economic outcome.
This has been a theme that we've gone over for several episodes. Maybe a lot of it was on the member side. I'm trying to think how much we covered here. Anyways, the point is, the theme of this is they're taking regulation, and that's their new hammer to hit you over the head with. Instead of criminalization, which is what they used to do, now it's regulation. So, it's legal. Sure, it's legal, but you can't have this much growing in your own home, which, like you said, is an affront to the economic side and the medicinal side. Or you can only have this many seeds, which is absolutely atrocious. Or you can't bring weed to the Emerald Cup in California without getting harassed, whatever it may be.
Right.
This is their new type of fucking cudgel to hit us with. And you were speaking to the cannabis community. I think there's still a core contingent of people who still share the value of unity and peace and love above everything, amongst the fighting, fighting about breeders, fighting about lights, fighting about everything.
Exactly.
I think it's just important to hold each other up and stay strong as a cannabis community, because divided we fall. I'm glad that people stepped up. I'm glad that you had that support in that crunch time. My understanding now is things are looking better for you. The court case is going well in your estimation. Yeah. And like you said, it's nerve-wracking that the final hearing's coming, but you're feeling pretty strong about it, right?
Yeah, we're feeling pretty confident. Their discovery phase, they didn't discover anything. There was a serious lack of communication between the state police, the attorneys for the state police and Fish and Wildlife, and our attorney. They won't communicate with our attorneys.
That's frustrating.
So it's frustrating, but it also lets us know that they don't have a leg to stand on.
Right.
That we're actually winning the battle. So as frustrating as it can be, it's also reaffirming and lets us know that we're potentially winning. Even if we lose, we've at least taken the battle. We've put it out there, and we're going to go public, even on a deeper level, and get it into some news outlets. But it has been a long and strenuous battle, for sure. I don't think anybody really wants to go to legal war with any agency that's backed by the U.S. government, because typically you're not going to win that battle.
Fuck no. Let me ask you this. This is just someone who knows nothing about the law. I know sometimes if you're in a civil case, especially with another civilian sort of thing, you'll follow up after winning the case and be like, okay, well, I want my fucking lawyer fees now. You just took me to court for no reason. Is that something that is an option, or are you not going to pursue that because it doesn't make sense, or you'll never win?
Oh yeah, we're definitely, hold them accountable for everything.
You should, man. Absolutely.
Everything that we can. There's a level of protection that they have. You can't sue the state police in Kentucky. You're suing a board that kind of oversees everything they do. So they're protected.
I see. That's what I was worried about.
This is nothing to them. They should have settled on this a year and a half ago and been civil about things. But that didn't happen, unfortunately.
Holy shit, man. Well, I hope you do get onto some big mainstream outlets, because it's interesting. It's interesting enough to your average person, your average non-smoker.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's enough to make nightly news.
Yeah, because this was a small farm. This was me, my wife, and her father, and that's it. We had, I think one of my buddies drove the 4-wheeler when we planted. Everything was planted by hand. Everything was harvested by hand. Everything, we were very hands-on. And so it was pretty personal. When they took that from us, it was time to fight, time to lace them up, because you can't lay down and take that.
Wow, man.
Got to set some precedents.
Absolutely.
Hold people accountable.
Absolutely wild. 2022
has got to be the year of accountability.
Well, we wish you, Godspeed and good luck. You have to keep us updated.
Thank you so much, buddy.
It's just wild because, like you said, and like we were saying, it makes no fucking sense. We can't let the fight stop here. this idea that there's legal cannabis and non-legal cannabis is just crazy to begin with. You take a look at some of these states where literally they both have THC, but one's legal because it came through a regulator, like my state, and the other is just illegal because it's illicit cannabis. It's the same way they treat it in Canada. There's two types of cannabis: illicit cannabis and legal cannabis. I've always joked and said, don't get them mixed up. Whatever you do, keep them separated, because there's no fucking way to tell the difference.
Exactly.
The only way
right.
the way to tell the difference, the illicit cannabis is a little bit better. The illicit cannabis was actually grown in living soil, so it's a little bit better.
Exactly.
Holy shit, man. We've entered bizarro world. But again, we really do wish you luck and keep us updated. Now, where can people find you? Maybe they heard this. They want to give you a shout out. They want to give you support. I know you're on Instagram at Dr. Greenskye, but it's spelled funnily. You want to spell that out for people?
Yeah, it's DrGrenskye. And don't ask about the spelling of the name. You know how Instagram is.
Don't ask, just follow.
Yeah, just don't ask. Just go along with it. Don't worry about the small details there.
Go and give them a follow, everybody. Great page to follow. Auctions all the time. The shit you work with is awesome.
Thanks so much.
Really love the stuff you're putting out. Rizo Rich sitting on some. He insists that I put certain things aside for him, and then he hasn't popped it yet, but he's like hoarding it. I try to unload all sorts of stuff onto this guy. He's always kind about it. Like, oh yeah, maybe I'll take a look at that. He saw your purple Kabul fuel.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, dude, grab half of those for me. Set 6 of those aside for me. Which is like, how through 6 of those purple Kabul fuel? I was like, hell yeah, buddy. You know it.
Yeah, those came out really nice. And it comes back to like, what parents are you working with? And Crickets and Cicada really crushed it with that purple Kabul. So yeah, they made, when you're working with killer gear like that, it's easy to make good crosses. Some things you can just line up and it's going to work right off the bat. Sometimes like, this is going to work. This is it. And then other times, something has to be held back and worked a little bit.
Yeah, man. I definitely am looking forward to seeing that come out, and the fuel coming from the GMO fuel, the F5 that you've been working for a while, right?
Yeah, and I'm actually working on a back cross to the GMO fuel F5 to a rocket fuel now to try to just keep the line fresh and to kind of reinvigorate some of the rocket fuel terpenes into the GMO fuel plant.
Oh man, is that what that is? So it's GMO crossed with rocket fuel, which my understanding is an OG back cross. Do I have that right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's GMO to rocket fuel from Archive.
Uh-huh.
And so I didn't release the F1s of that. I held off on releasing any F1s and then released it as an F2 after I'd kind of played with it for a bit and realized the potential for that strain was through the roof.
Holy shit.
And I've seen a lot of GMO fuel come back, in the 30% range. It's not something I throw up all over my page. Like, I'm in the 30% club. I'm made it, ma. But it does. It gets up there in the THC percentage. So
holy fuck.
It's a staple. Yeah.
I don't know why I wasn't putting together the fuel from rocket fuel and I was just focusing on the GMO part. I love rocket fuel, man.
Yeah.
Or am I thinking of jet fuel? Is the OG back cross? I need to know the lineage on Archives rocket fuel. I don't want to misquote. We'll see. I'll look it up here.
Okay, cool. I should know that right off the top of my head. I should know that. It's a face-off OG back cross.
Ah.
But they, Fletch and those guys, they produce some really good work. Not everybody likes his style, but they produce some really solid work. So I've been working with a lot of their gear since early 2000s, and I've really never been disappointed.
Oh yeah, man! Archive puts out some serious heat for sure. I was on the right track, everybody. Rocket fuel is the jet fuel OG crossed with the face off OG. So it does have that jet fuel lineage. That's why, and yeah. That's right. I've had the jet fuel and I've had the rocket fuel. And then that's put into the GMO. So you were working with GMO before it was cool. I'm doing the math in my head, and if you're working the F5, you were working GMO a fucking long time ago.
Yeah, I was working GMO. Right around its boom of popularity. I was fortunate to get a cut of it in Michigan. I liked it a lot. I wasn't 100% sold on the terpenes. I liked the aroma, but I didn't like how it translated over in flavor. Sometimes if you push it too long, you can kind of, and some of the concentrates with GMO, you can get some of the like grandma's attic flavor. And, I was trying to stray away from that. So that's where I got into the rocket fuel and didn't release the F1s, purposefully because I wanted to make sure that I had at least some direction of working, the line.
Wow. So you were specifically working it towards the jet fuel side, specifically with the flavor. You wanted that nice OG, man, that rocket fuel. I'm sorry, that jet fuel OG in that rocket fuel. That's got that nice fucking gassy OG. Yeah. Because a lot of people, they've had OGs and
thick flavors.
Yeah, right. Because they've had different kinds of OG. There's like earthier OGs that I've had out there. There's definitely sweeter OGs that I've had. And then there's the one that I'm used to, which is like the SFV OG, like 2013 era gas. Yeah. Gas and sweet, I would say.
Chemical gas. Yes. Yeah. Paint thinner. Yeah.
That was always OG to me. I know people have different phenos because, like I said, there's kind of other versions, but that is my favorite version. So
yeah,
so I gotta get this one popping, dude. We have these seeds.
And the planetary OGs from the early 2000s, man, those were really special. And they just kind of fell off the face of the earth. No pun intended there, but you don't really see the Jupiter OG and Earth OG and Mars OG like you did back then.
That's a good point.
And those were really nice OGs, and they just kind of fell off. And I don't know if they were just labeled cuts, and I don't know. I guess I'm not as knowledgeable on some genetics as I should be as a breeder, but you can't really dig in and get to the truth of every strain. Exactly. It's just impossible.
So true.
You kind of have to concede at some point and say, well, I'm not even going to try to get to the background of that strain.
Oh, it's all over. That was even true back before everything went off the rails and jumped the shark. Like now it's not, you know what I mean? Like now it's not even going to be about lineage. It's just going to be about brands and like which celebrity is picking up which strain to make a new line, a brand, a blend. That's where it's all headed, man.
You're dead on.
Yeah. Yep. There's no stopping it. So I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying it's definitely the future. I do hope to educate as many people as we can here at Growcast, get as many people growing and get them in the know. So we still have this kind of subculture. But even in this, dude, it's like people are breeding stuff all the time. People are grabbing a bag seed that they don't know the lineage of and breeding with that. People are naming stuff the same name just because we're running out of names.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a strain called J207. I'm just going to slap this on it and throw out some testers. And I just never changed the name. I just stuck with it.
There's no way someone has that taken.
There's no way someone has this. And so, yeah, it's almost a practical joke at this point.
That is funny, man.
At least we're moving in a direction that's somewhat positive.
Right. We're moving in a direction. You could have just stopped the sentence there. At least we're moving in a direction.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, I would love to talk to you about testing, man. We'll be right back with Dr. Greenskye, but before that, I urge you to come and join the Order. It's time you joined the Order, our membership program. It is the best, folks. It's our secret society of growers, our cultivation fam, our CULTfam. If you've been in before, come and join again. We've got so much extra content that's been posted. You can consume everything we've got. I'm in the Discord every day. I mean, it shocks me how some of these membership programs, the guys don't spend time in their own Discord. You'll find me in my Discord every single day in the voice chat, in the posts, posting in the channels, and going live twice a week for the members. Growcast TV every Wednesday night. It's a blast. Interact live. Hours and hours, hundreds of hours of archived bonus content. Plus, you get to interact with the show. Come on down, the Order of Cultivation, baby. Growcastpodcast.com/membership will bring you right there. And join on up. It's a perfect time to join this month. We're going to have all sorts of lovely guests. The aforementioned Dr. Greenskye will be on Growcast TV. And like I said, there's so much to see content-wise, giveaway-wise, and our amazing Discord where we hang out every single day with our fellow Growmigos. Growcastpodcast.com/membership. Join the Order, and then don't tell anybody. I'm probably going to make it invite only. It is our secret society of growers, so it's probably just a matter of time before I close down registration and make it invite only. But anyways, growcastpodcast.com/membership. We'll see you there, everybody. You won't regret it. All right, let's get back to it with Dr. Greenskye. I would love to talk to you about testing, man. I know we were kind of laughing about how we feel similarly about testing off air. I won't even set you up. You know, you take a look at the cannabis industry now. I guess I will set you up. You take a look at the cannabis industry now. You take a look at what people call testing. You take a look at how often people follow through, how often testers follow through, breeders. What do you see? What makes you chuckle? What would you change?
Yeah. It's almost useless at this point. My DMs are going to be flooded with other breeders like, you clown, you think testing's useless? But yeah, at this point, everybody's facility, everybody's grow space is different. I understand that, you know, a lot of times we're putting some gear out that may not, that's just totally off the charts. Some Vietnamese cross the Afghan, you know, or something like that. That needs testing. That's going to be all over the place. But a lot of this stuff is really dependent on environment and not even genetics at this point. So
right.
Testing it's a thing of the past. And you can hear the hesitancy in my voice just trying to, I don't want to say it, but
drop it.
I feel like it's a thing of the past.
Drop it. Yeah.
You know, I think the standards, well, there's a huge double standard in the industry. Certain breeders don't have to test. Certain breeders can just throw anything out anytime they want. And I'm not going to say that I haven't done the same. I do the same quite a bit. I'll throw a strain out and not test it, but I'm charging 40 or 50 a pack on it.
Right.
I'm not charging $300 a pack, and you're going to get the same results.
Absolutely.
Whether or not it's tested or not.
You're fucking so dead on. Let's extrapolate though, because I know, don't get mad, listener. Don't get mad. Hear us out.
Yeah.
We have reasoning here. And by the way, again, you're sounding a lot like Riser Rich at this point. He makes the same argument. But let's break down exactly what we mean by this. So first of all, when it comes to testing, generally we're talking about one thing in the cannabis industry, which is intersex stability. Mm-hmm. Intersex stability. You're making sure that the thing flowers out and it doesn't just herm, you know, week 2 of flower, and you're not going to get any bud out of it. So that's really what we're after when we're talking about testing. That alone is the standards are way below other industries. I've talked about this before. When it comes to coffee, and you take a look at how people test coffee cultivars, they're not just flowering it out in optimal or even suboptimal conditions and then seeing how it does. Like, they're doing all sorts of stuff. They're purposefully introducing this harmful mold, seeing how it reacts to this pest, seeing, you know what I mean? Like, again, introducing pests on purpose to try and really get scientific data on how to make these cultivars more pest resistant. So, like, just off the bat, we're not even really talking about testing. We're talking about making sure that they're somewhat stable. That being said, it's like you said, you never get the intersex trait out of cannabis. There is not a cannabis strain on the planet that's immune to intersex traits. And that's because it's one of its main fucking superpowers. Yeah. Most plants don't even have genders. So cannabis is one of those plants. And then it has this ability to intersex. I've said it before on the member show. It's like if you had the ability to fly and then you never choose to never use it. I mean, it's its main superpower. And even the most tested strains, quote, tested strains, can herm. Yeah. Then you get onto breeders. And we know, we won't name any names either, but we know of breeders who do this. They have people test out their strains. All the testers come back and say they hermed, and then they go ahead and release the strain anyways.
Oh, yeah, it's happened to me directly. And as a breeder, when I'm testing for another breeder, I expect them to take my feedback as something of importance, but certain breeders have ignored that, and I've seen their results. You know, a year later, you see their packs floating around for 150 a pack, and you know that the genetics are unstable because you saw 3 out of 3 females go full on herm at week 30.
Right, and to be clear, those strains do exist. Unstable strains that fucking herm out do exist. Oh, that's really the original of testing. But dude, having been popping packs now for not too long, but in the modern age, those are harder and harder to find. Like you start with 2 stable parents, or you buy from a breeder who you know started with 2 stable parents, and then you grow them well and you don't have a fucking light leak like you said. it's getting harder and harder to find those whack ass gonna herm every time strains just due to the nature of polyhybridism. So you add all that up, which is we're not really testing anyways. We're going to make the thing herm if we grow it bad, no matter how well tested it is. The breeders get feedback from testers, don't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And then no strain is immune to herming once they release the pack, no matter how much you test it. At the end of that whole thing, it's like, oh, that's a good argument. Hey, Dr. Greenskye's up on the stand, and he just made a pretty damn good argument for testing maybe not being a thing of the past, but at least not being the same.
Testing in air quotes there, because, you know, like you said with the coffee, we're not fully testing. We're just checking for intersex traits. And so checking for intersex traits on a plant that's known to survive off of intersex traits is pretty redundant. And, you know, I'm going to be real. I just tossed 4 females out of my garden and they were well tested. But they, you know, week 3, I haven't seen it for almost a year. I grow a lot of different genetics from a lot of different breeders across the world. And I haven't messed with a lot of intersex stuff in the past year and a half. I just haven't seen much of it. But last week I had to toss a bunch of stuff out. Wow. I was like, dang, this stuff still exists, huh? And it was some hype. And, you know, I was guilty of trying to grow some hype. You know, look at me, I'm cool. And then that's what I get, you know.
That is really
You're
funny.
not cool, man.
That is really
You're not cool.
You're not cool. Turns out you're not cool.
Stick to your heirlooms, Dr. Greenskye.
Go back to the Afghani heirlooms. You don't want you don't deserve us runts. I bet it was runts.
Stick to the desert, fool.
Fool. Yeah, it's just interesting. Again, no, you don't have to write us hate mail. No one cares about my opinion. I'm not a breeder.
Hey, I'm a nobody. I'm a general nobody. So my opinion doesn't really matter. It doesn't carry a lot of weight either. But that's just the direction I've seen things going. And you know, I've been breeding for a while, and I've known that this whole testing, again, in air quotes there, is bullshit. It's just let's mark up our packs, you know, and I don't know. I can't justify a $10 seed. Personally, I can't do that to my customers and the people that support me. You know, I'm gonna always strive for that $4 to $5 seed range and stick with that. You know, you should be able to get good genetics for less than $100 a pack. And you should be able to know that you can get those genetics all day and night for less than $100 a pack and have a selection.
I agree.
Unfortunately, I live here in a state where I can't produce, you know, the amount of seed that I would like to. And that's just an unfortunate scenario, you know, with the laws here in Illinois and the plant counts. You know, I have to work with a limited space and really plan. Planning is something that I've never thought about in the past. You know, I was just kind of winging it and going with the flow. But when you get hit with a restricted plant count, you really have to plan and plot your next move so that you're really working your space to the most of its ability while staying within the law.
100%, man.
It's tricky to navigate, but it's working. And we're still striving, you know, for higher plant counts. And a caregiver system would be really nice to see here in Illinois.
Oh, God.
I feel like the country as a whole has kind of abandoned the caregiver system. Like, when did we decide that was wrong? I don't know when the people voted on that. I guess I missed that.
It's one of the things that makes me sick. The caregiver program is one of the most compassionate and sensible ways to grow, where you can transfer your card from one person to another. The legislation makes so much sense. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I didn't realize either. Should get together before I move out of Illinois, but yeah, we were vibe on a lot of topics. I must say.
Yes.
I want to dig in though, because you said something about land races, heirlooms, the desert.
Mm-hmm.
We're definitely going there. Real quick to wrap up the topic though of testing, I also will, listener, be having Dr. Coco on, who comes from a kind of academia background, to talk about the importance of testing and how they do it differently to go down that road of, proper testing. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a really cool episode to kind of see the other side of this, because he thinks about it from a whole different way when it comes to corn testing. You know what I mean? It's a whole different fucking ball game. So
yeah, if we're going to hold ourselves to those standards, that's great. But that's actual testing, and that's not just checking for intersex traits. That's introducing pathogens.
That's where it's headed.
And seeing, and that has to be to some extent. But then where does that place the small breeder? Where does that place the small grower? And typically it's in the shadows, in the underbelly doing the work.
That's a good point. That's what's happened. Now they literally stick you in the dark and then have the corporate front have you in the underbelly. It's absolutely true.
What's the pricing now in Illinois to get a license? And the percentage of people that are actually getting, approved is abysmal. You're talking about like 1%, right?
Garbage. Total garbage.
It's insane. So nobody's getting a license unless you're coming from millions. And so last time I checked, cannabis wasn't, exclusively for millionaires. It wasn't exclusively for the rich. Last time I checked it helped the working class get through a long day of work.
Red Scare Seed Co., baby.
Yeah, for the proletariat all day, all night.
Yeah, that's that regulation I told you about. That's what they like to do for millionaires only. I couldn't agree more.
Oh, yeah, I can't fuck with that. I've had some opportunities here and there to get in on some like, hey, man, come work for us and come do this. And I'm going to hang independent for as long as I can before I'm sure you've noticed, especially over the last year or two, a lot of breeders are and growers are kind of getting sucked into the corporate game, and they're teaming up, and you're seeing this partnership. But I'm backing off of that partnership. I don't want to be partners with big money. That's not where I come from.
I agree, man.
I come from nothing. So I have no desire to work with, the big money. That's just it's not who I am. But then it goes back to the testing and proper testing. Now, what if I want to test my genetics the right way and introduce pathogens and see how they respond to this or that? Well, then all of a sudden I need that money. I need that financial backing and support to have the proper facility. So
I think you're right.
It's really a tricky spot to navigate,
That's true. And on principle, I totally agree with you. That's a principle thing you just said. However, I think that with the advancement of technology, like for instance, a silver lining that I've heard people say on my show for this whole pandemic nonsense has been the rapid advances in genetic testing and the lowering of the cost.
Yeah.
So maybe it comes down to less about having to test these organisms and instead knowing the genetic markers and just having you do a DNA test to give you that same information that would normally require. You know what I mean? Like maybe technological advances will help break that barrier. Yeah. I hope. That's the optimist in me.
One of the few positives that came out of the pandemic, I would say, yeah. And that's a positive. That really is, to be able to have that genetic marker and know that this plant's, predisposition to carry whatever disease.
That's the idea, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because then you can prevent any of that in your grow. You're running clean. You're able to make a profit and, and function.
Totally.
Or have medicine, even if you're not doing it for profit and you're doing it, for medicine or just to grow the plant. Some people just like to grow plants. Sometimes we overthink this and we put too much thought into it. Sometimes people just like to grow plants. It's that simple.
It's so true. So true. But it would be cool to see that from like a breeder's perspective. If you could see like a susceptibility to powdery mildew and let's say like there was an acceptable level of genetic exposure to that, like, oh, it looks like 4 generations back it has this genetic marker, but that should be okay. That, you know what I mean? Like that would be really fucking cool.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be cool to see too, and see if people can actually work lines. It would be a great tester, to see if that something's has the marker to carry PM. Can you work it out of that? And if you can't, is there a reason for that strain to even exist?
Right.
And oftentimes the answer is no. There's something out there that's already better than that. And I've dealt with that personally with a lot of my genetics. I'm like, I don't even have to keep these seeds. It's useless. Just get them out to the market and keep working new stuff and just keep discovering the plant while you can. And that would be my advice to anybody that's out there trying to grow or breed, is just get your hands on it and just keep flowing through as many strains and seeds as you can. Just keep popping, keep going. And then you can get a feel for the plant.
I totally vibe with you, man. Couldn't agree more. I would love to talk about what you're working on for your breeding projects in the near future, let's say.
Yeah. Right now, some Afghanistan preservation projects, kind of working with full power selections. We're doing a preservation, or I am, of the Maruf red and Maruf black. And I'll be donating a portion of the money back into charity in India.
Oh, nice. I love that.
Yeah, trying to give back a little bit. You know, it's tricky. You can't necessarily just push money into regions like Afghanistan or Pakistan without getting, the crooked eye here in the States. But really, that's what needs to happen. Cannabis money needs to go back to its origins, and it needs to go back to its roots. And so in India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, they deserve our support over here in the States. We can't just sit over here and grow our polyhybrids out, smoking on our Mach 1, and forget about where the Afghanistan came from, in that genetic makeup.
Holy fuck, dude. Well said. Well said. Talk to us about that Maruf.
Yeah, really nasty. A lot of Afghans carry sweet profiles, but these do not. These are funky, death, rotten flesh, fish scale, like clean ocean fish scale. It's just the most, I can't even describe some of the aromas these plants are putting off. They're just very funky plants.
Wow, man.
Oftentimes you see the word black attached to a strain and you're like, okay, it's going to turn black. And I've grown enough Afghans to know that sometimes that's not going to happen. A lot of times, your anthocyanins aren't going to kick in unless your temperatures plummet on you, or your temps drop, or drought hits, or something of that. A stressor hits the plant. Then you're going to see, the coloration. But with these, they don't need stress introduced to pop that color out. The Maruf black, it just throws out the black from week 3 on. It starts getting dark. It's such a lovely plant to look at. Thick, broad leaves, thick indica structure, heavy resin content. Really everything you want for what I would say is a foundation strain. If you wanted to start a genetic company up and you wanted to start a seed company up, you would probably want to start with something like a pure Afghan, something like a pure Thai. And then you start working with those Southeast Asian varieties and you're really going to get into the intersex traits like we talked about. So that's where testing for intersex traits can become important. So I kind of contradict myself a lot. And I'll say testing's not important, but then at the same time,
yeah, it's pretty important.
I'll say that with, I've been growing for 20 years plus. So it's like, I'll say it's not important, and somebody will go take that to heart and think that, well, testing's not important. Dr. Greenskye said you don't have to test. And then all of a sudden you see these F1s floating around out here that are like Vietnamese crossed to Pakistani, and then you're dealing with survival traits,
Herm to shit.
Get back to where it began. And that's, the Silk Route. You go back to that, and you follow that. As a breeder, that's where you want to stay. You want to stay with the Silk Road. That's where you're going to find your real gems, and that's where the winners are, man.
I love it.
You can grow your polys and get, you know what you're going to get. You grow out a certain hype strain. I'm trying not to name anything. I don't want to throw any breeders under the table. Something I've noticed. Let's say I'm just going to throw out Sour D BX. So really unstable, right? But people fucking love it.
Sure.
They don't give a shit.
There
Like
you go.
sour
That's another
D,
good
okay,
point, dude. That adds to the whole
give
thing
it.
too, which is if it's good enough and if it throws nanners late enough, right?
Yeah, yeah. Then they'll fuck with it, you know. But that's not always for me. I see that as a sign of weakness that I just can't have in my program. You know, even if it's a late 10, week 9, week 10, I don't know if somebody's running a perpetual garden, you know, and introducing plants, you know, at week 2 or week 3, and then you've got a late herm and you've got a plant that's a week 3. All of a sudden, you've got a plant full of seeds.
Right. I do want to ask you though about, because we're on the subject of kind of stability and heirlooms.
Mm-hmm.
I've only had the pleasure of growing a half heirloom strain at this point. I haven't really fucked with like land race, you know, far away stuff. I got to imagine there's probably a pretty good mix. Like, I guess that's why you're saying it's important to look for those intersex traits. Do you find them to be unstable inherently, stable inherently, a mix of the two? Do you find certain regions to be more stable than others? Like, have you fucked with Afghans and like, oh, these are more stable than some of the Southeast Asian strains? What have you observed in that regard?
Yeah. Even within Afghanistan itself, regional varieties will be more stable. I've noticed, like, out of Kundo's village, that you can get the roadkill skunk everybody wants, but it comes at a cost of intersex traits. Because I grew out Kundo's village and grew out way more than I was supposed to, and found that the roadkill skunk terp that everybody wants is in the Kundos, but genetically it's not stable.
Wow.
It throws intersex traits out at like week 5 or 6. And I don't know if that's just because they're growing for keef and, you know, they're just hashing the plants. So to them, it doesn't matter if it has seeds. We're Cincy over here. Everybody wants, you know, a clean crop, no seeds. So within the regions of Afghanistan, you'll see differences in how lines have been worked. And so this Duran project that Full Power Selections dropped has been really phenomenal, because not only have the plants been really stable, but they've all lived up to their description, which is astounding, that you can take something from the other side of the world, bring it over here and run it inside for the first time ever, and it comes out true to the traits that they had over in Afghanistan.
Wow.
That to me is amazing, and a testament to the work that those breeders have done for decades, you know, since the beginning of the plant. You know, so some of those regions have had the cannabis plant growing there for their entire existence, I would assume, right?
Yeah,
So,
basically before prehistory is my understanding. You talk about the Silk Road,
right?
This trade route that connected Europe to Asia, and really the people that dominated the Silk Road since BC, since times before Christ, were these Iranian horse peoples. You can think of them as kind of like proto-Mongols, you know, the Mongol horde, where everybody's on a horse and everybody's got 3 horses in tow, and they can all shoot bows on the backs of horses, and they all have lances and things like that, like spear lances. That's who really was, that's who was supposedly hanging on to this cannabis. And they weren't agricultural people, so they probably planted it and left and came back later. That's probably how they grew the cannabis. And when Herodotus visited the Scythians, is a very famous, that's the biblical version of these Iranian horse peoples, and the Scythians were around for a long time. And Herodotus from Greece visited the Scythians in his travels. Herodotus, known as the father of history, some people call him the father of lies, so take it with what you will. But he said that they would, they said that the Scythians wouldn't bathe in water. They would instead bathe in smoke. They would light hemp seeds and hemp plants, and they would burn them under a tent, like hotbox it. And he said they would howl in pleasure at the smoke bath. So those are, I think, the people that you have to thank for making those selections since like 1600 BC or something, longer than that, I think, whenever they domesticated the horse.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
I mean, probably even longer than that. They're probably doing the plant thing before the horse thing.
Yeah, I would say they go hand in hand there.
Right?
You know?
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah. the progress of man goes hand in hand with horse is typically,
That is definitely your people's. Have you ever had the chance to go over there? Me and you should take a trip over there.
I have not. I'm not sure. I've always wanted to, and I had the opportunity. But it was like 2004, 2005, and honestly, I was just terrified to go to Pakistan.
Right.
I'm not even going to lie to you. Just man to man, I was scared to go to Pakistan, so I stayed away from that.
It's not exactly notoriously the most stable region, man. You don't have to say it like it was some sort of phobia.
And it's not even the region. It's coming back to my own country after visiting that region is what terrified me. You know,
right.
It's not the region that terrifies me. It's not the people of that region that terrifies me. It's coming back to my own country after visiting that region that terrified me.
Right.
Because I saw how they were treating people, you know.
Exactly, man.
Post 9/11, things were a little sketchy for a while.
No kidding. That is true.
And now we're post 9/11, post pandemic. So
I think that war, yeah, right. Too many posts. Yeah. Come on, let's just have some years where everything's, normal. Speaking of the war over there, though, I think that a lot of veterans ended up bringing back genetics. I know for a fact that's
definitely.
How, you know what I mean? That opened some doors from the cannabis side. Obviously not worth a senseless war, but you know what I mean? That did contribute to the gene pool.
Definitely. And I mean, they were notorious for bringing back, Vietnamese genetics, Afghan genetics. Our vets brought back a lot of genetics and changed the scene really multiple times throughout cannabis history. Anytime there was a war, you look at cannabis and it's kind of reflected back on the region of war. So
true.
10 years after the Vietnamese War, the cannabis was a little bit different because you were starting to see that Vietnamese influence in some of, the genetics.
Damn, dude.
And that's just small circle stuff. But as a whole, I think, veterans have brought back a lot of rare genetics that we would have never seen probably.
Yeah, that's really important to shout them out, huh? That is a really good point.
Definitely.
We've got some veterans in membership too. Shout out to the fucking vets. Not just for, going over there, risking their lives. They should be able to walk back with those seeds held high. It's just a shame they had to make them smuggle after, sacrificing their lives. Yeah, exactly. So,
crazy.
Really, really good parallel there, though. You're right. Dr. Greenskye, I'm looking up. We're here at the top of the hour with the hard out already. This flew by, dude. I feel like I didn't get to ask you all the things I wanted to ask you. We'll definitely have you back. We talked about the litigation. We didn't really talk about too many I guess we talked about your work in the new Afghan stuff. We talked about the GMO fuel. I don't know. Anything else you want to discuss before we wrap it up here?
Oh man, no, just keep watching for, anytime you see full power selections with an Afghanistan drop, just know that I'm going to be somewhere trying to preserve something along that line and keep it, fluid here, because I don't think the public understands how rare some of these seeds are. They come into the States and you may only get 500 seeds total of a certain variety or a regional cultivar. And all of a sudden, you're talking about 500 seeds for a planet full of growers.
Right.
And man, these are some rare genetics. We're talking like 1,000 or less seeds going out to certain regions. So get in where you fit in is what I could say, because some of these Afghans, they're going to come and they're going to go and you may never see them, and that would be a shame to live your whole life and never smoke a good Afghan. I couldn't imagine. Afghanistan's a big country. There's a lot of regions, and there's a lot of regional cultivars. So you could say, oh man, I had some killer Afghani, and I would be like, oh no shit, what region? And that's the subculture of cannabis for you. I'm something of a dork. It's hard for me to speak publicly. So for me, I just dissolve into the genetics. I just try to, dissolve myself into the plants. And because if I focus on the community, if I focus on the people, I can get overwhelmed. It's just a lot to take in. And there's the constant influx of knowledge from guys like Sync Angel and all these dudes who are really helping the cannabis community deal with new pathogens, new viruses. These guys are like out here doing the Lord's work. You know what I mean? Sync Angel, I don't know if anybody out there is on Instagram, follow that dude.
Oh, hell yeah. Matthew Gates. We just did an extensive Growcast TV episode for you guys up at /membership, growcastpodcast.com/membership. We'll have him back on the main podcast too. Glad you're a fan of Matthew Gates, man. We feel that way about you, though. I'm not going to lie. We feel you're doing God's work. So right back at you.
That's somebody that I look up to, and I'm like, I'll let him speak on this subject, and I won't even have to speak on it, because he covers it so thoroughly. I can just focus on genetics and doing my thing, and just sit back and watch as these mad scientists do their magic. It's really awesome to see.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick before we wrap it up, though, you did mention the different regions of Afghanistan. Do you have a favorite region? What's your what region does your favorite cannabis come from?
Oh, that is loaded. I'm gonna go back to the Kundos. That was some really amazing stuff. The Kundos village, but this Maruf, the Maruf Black, is some of the finest Afghan I've come across, and I'm talking like a dozen different regions. I've probably had sampled genetics from a dozen different regions, and yeah, the Maruf is definitely a winner for me. It's up there. It's a standout. The red or the black
in the Kandahar province, right?
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know. I don't know Afghan geography here. It is right on the border of Pakistan. You're in the southeast region. You're southwest of Kabul. You're just over the border from Pakistan.
Yeah. Talking dirty to me.
Wow, man. I didn't even think about that. The different regions.
Yeah. When you start getting into you look at how the lines were drawn, to separate Afghanistan and Pakistan. And it's really just crazy. They really just kind of drew a line and just said, well, that's it. And Great Britain just left it. And that's what you have now. That to me is maddening that some dude that had never visited that region can just draw a line and say, okay, this is India, this is Pakistan, this is Afghanistan, you're good, I'm out of here. See you later.
That's basically what happened.
It's such a colonial prick move.
It was, it's so funny, dude. Yeah, especially World War I when they started drawing up lines left and right. Get out that fucking eraser. That was really funny. Yeah, more of a Tajikistan man myself. No, I don't know any of this, but it's super cool to hear you talk about it, man. We'll be looking out for that work on the Maruf. We'll be looking out for everything at Dr. Greenskye on Instagram. Go and follow him, everybody. Red Scare Seed Co. Keep an eye out for those auctions. Go show him your support. Thank you, man, for taking the time today to speak to the Growcast audience. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. Let me tell my story and get it out there. I appreciate it.
Fuck yeah, man. Anytime. We'll have you back real soon. And you listeners, you can stay tuned for more Red Scare Seed Co., more breeder features, more Growcast TV for members at growcastpodcast.com/membership. Come and check it out. It's the best. And thank you so much for tuning in. That's all, everybody. This is Dr. Greenskye and Jordan River signing off saying be safe and grow smarter. Bye-bye. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know you enjoyed this Red Scare Seed Co. breeder feature. Before we wrap it up, AC Infinity. That's right, waiting for those cloud rays to drop. As of recording, they haven't yet. I don't know. Could have dropped by the time I release this. Who knows? ACinfinity.com, code GROWCAST15. They make the best tents around for the best price as far as I can tell. I mean, there's some other great options, but the thick poles, the thick canvas, and the low price of the AC Infinity tents make them my favorite. They've now got lights up there. They've got, of course, their fans are the best. That's where they started. Their inline fans, their Cloudline series is just the best fans on the market. They even have the light series if you're on a budget. And then, like I said, keep an eye out for the Cloud Ray oscillating fan. Already imitators before the real deal is even dropped. But I've worked with one of the authentic ones, and I got to say it's the best damn oscillator I've ever had. You're going to want to grab one. You're going to want to use code GROWCAST15 to save 15%. And reminder, guys, anytime you use any of our codes, send us a snapshot of you using our codes to be entered to win free seeds every single month. A Patreon member took them down at the beginning of this month. Congratulations. A pack of seeds, free pack of seeds just for using a code. Send us those snapshots, people. I pick one every single month. And then Eleanor sends out the prizes. That is the beauty of Growcast. All right, so much going on, you guys. As you're hearing this, Friday, February 18th, I'm in SoCal. Come to Oceanside, California if you're in the SoCal area. That's 420 to 620. Seed swap, smoke out, food. You're going to love it. Cultivators Cup 423. That's April 23rd in Southern Illinois at the Hideaway in Harrisburg, Illinois. Harrisburg, Hideaway. Legal indoor consumption. I think the only one in the state? It's really cool. It's a little speakeasy for cannabis growers. That's where we're having the Cultivators Cup. You're going to want to attend. 423, April 23rd. Mark your calendars. And tons more. Too much to explain here. Thank you all for listening, for staying subscribed, for growing the Growcast army. Tell a friend about the show. We get bigger every day. The show's bigger than it's ever been. Membership's bigger than it's ever been. It's largely thanks to you. So I appreciate you. Go forth and do amazing things in your garden. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.